So I will begin and by saying, welcome to another episode of Hangin' in the Basement, and with your host John Henry Sheridan. And today I have a guest that, to my feeling, is long overdue to have a chat with. And I think y'all going to be pretty excited and titillated by our conversation. This is Billy Grisack. And saying, welcome, Bill.
All right, now remember, I'm Billy. Bill's my dad. Okay.
It's flipped. It really slipped out. I'm like, I just said Bill. My brother's Bill. I could do them
Right,
both.
yeah.
Bill or Billy, he's all right with that.
Yeah, and that's what's really funny is like when a lot of people just gravitate, especially around here where I live. Bill is like the default name. Plus, if he's a
Mhm.
really old guy, you don't think his name's Billy. That's more of a kid's name. But in our family, so I'm actually the third. But
Yeah.
anyway, so the thing is that so I've been in the music business. Our family's been in the music business since 1917, and my grandfather, Bill the First, started it, and then all the different iterations of Williams have been doing it. So it's like a over 100 years in the music business now with my son doing it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've heard a bit of that story before. And so you got Bill, Bill Jr., Billy, and your son Will. Is that how it works?
Well, yeah. My wife agreed to do the fourth thing, but she said we weren't going to call him Bill or Billy, and we settled on Will, but it's Will with one L, like Will Wheaton, because we're like major Star Trek nerds. So Will
Mm.
goes out of his way to tell people it's Will with one L, like Wheaton. So it's pretty funny. So
Cool. So let me just tell the people, our listeners, that how I came to know Billy Grisack, and that was I was getting knuckling my way into the sort of I had this vision that I was going to be like a heavy metal for kids type of artist, right? And I was being coached by Bob Baker at the time, and it was just like a brief thing that we did. But so I told him my vision, and he helped me kind of craft what the heck I was going to present to the world. And he's like, "Well, if you're doing rock music for kids, I got to introduce you to my friend Billy Ryzak, Mr. Billy," he probably said.
Mr. Billy at the time, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Billy, and so I we didn't formally meet, but I would start looking into what you're doing, maybe send you a message here and there, and then you guys started doing the podcast together, and I was already listening to Bob Baker's podcast, and listening to Bob Baker and Billy Gryzak was just a lot of fun. Every time I saw an episode, I'm like, yes, and I really feel like I'm hanging with the boys, and they're talking, fun stories that are relevant to me, and wasn't highfalutin. It was pretty casual, But Bob has that slightly serious side too. But between the both of you, there's a lot of wisdom, you know, coming through.
So where were we? Oh, Bob Baker.
Yeah, yeah. So that's basically how I got to know Billy Gryzak is through Bob Baker, and who was a fun guy. And then I saw into the world of Mr. Billy, and then the podcast that you and Bob did together. I was like, just had a good time listening to that, and I felt a kinship with you, and being that you have this track record of both being in a rock band, like sort of regular rock band, right? And then you went into this kids music and rock at the same time, and then you did like a lot of acoustic stuff and guitar teaching. So there's just a lot of overlap on our paths, you know. And
Yeah, and I'm hoping to soon be author too. So uh people are begging me to write my stuff down into some type of cohesive piece of literature. So I might have to bend you.
I would
I might
definitely
have
be
to get
happy to read it. I would be happy to read it. I'll tell you that for sure.
but we can get into whatever you want to get into. But yeah, do you want a little history on my career or my
Yeah,
family? I mean, where do you want
I'd
to
be
go?
into it. I'd be into
Okay.
it. I mean, yeah, we can go any direction, but sure. Like, I know you just recently, Alicia presented on Facebook that you retired after 50 years in the music business. So, give us a little taste of what those 50 years were like, please.
Okay, well, it was technically 52, but I call it 50. Who's counting? But anyway, so yeah, so like I mentioned, I think I mentioned it. Our whole family's musicians, so I was kind of born into it, and I don't want to say that I didn't have a choice necessarily, but I didn't have a choice. You know, it's weird. At least not till I got a little older. But uh, I was born. I'll be 64, so I was born in 1961, best year ever. And I started learning guitar when I was 9, and by the time I was 12, I started playing professionally. And my first band was my mom and my dad and my grandfather and me. And that was really cool. And we would do like weddings and events and socials and stuff like that. And then after that, when I was about 16 or so, I dropped out of school because I felt like I already had a career. And I started playing full time. And by the time I was 17, I think, I actually hit the road and played in a whole bunch of various road bands. By the time I was not even 21 yet, I stopped working for other people and I started doing my own bands. And again, I'm born in Philadelphia and raised in New Jersey, and so know the East Coast real well.
Oh,
And what happened after that? Where were we? So yeah, so I hit the road, and I just ended up touring a lot. But I consider myself a classic rock musician with like very almost futuristic tendencies, if that means anything. Um, it's like but I'm a rock musician. I can play pretty much any style, but if you're a guitar player, you kind of almost want to play rock music because that's the stuff we get to stretch out and do the most fun things and extended guitar solos and stuff. And rock is more guitar music than say a lot of other musics. Maybe blues and country are these days are pretty much up there too, but like where I come from and where you're from, it's a lot of R&B, lots of different stuff. And at the time, disco was big, and that wasn't a big guitar thing.
sure.
So I went on the road and I found myself playing a lot in the Midwest, and I found out that if you wanted to be a rock guitar player, the Midwest is the place to be. So I did a lot of different things, and then came out to the Midwest in the 80s and liked it a lot. And I moved here for good April Fool's Day of 1999. Uh,
Really?
yeah, yeah. So what's that? Our 29 years or something like that anniversary recently. But we or actually 26 year anniversary. But before I landed here, I managed to play every state in the United States except for Hawaii. So I'm still looking for a Hawaii gig. Anybody watching, have gigs in Hawaii, call me, billygrisack.com. Okay. So I've done 49 states. And I did Alaska with my son. That was really cool. We did a whole tour of Alaska, just the two of us. And then I've done all the provinces of Canada and the Yukon, Newfoundland, and Greenland. So pretty much this quarter hemisphere of the planet Earth, I've done from the Mexico state line up to the North Pole, which is kind of cool. And I got paid to play in all those places. It wasn't vacationing. So that was kind of cool. Greenland was very interesting if you want to get into that.
Oh my
But
goodness.
yeah, so I've been doing this forever and ever. And when I said I didn't really have a choice with the family, like our family had this philosophy, like they frowned on people in the family getting day jobs because they felt like it was giving up. And my mother was always like, well, you have a career, you have a profession, you're like a lawyer, you're like a doctor. What do you want a day job for? So we were kind of indoctrinated into music as being like a professional career path, not like, going to the office or doing it part-time for fun. So that's cool.
And that's
And
rare. I'd say that's a rare
I know, right?
way
Right.
to be raised. Right?
Yeah. And my dad, I guess my dad too was sort of a semi-famous jazz musician out in the East Coast. He played with he did some stuff with Stan Getz and Dizzy Gillespie and things like that. And he used to write some charts for Rosemary Clooney, I guess he did arrangements for her. So he was amazing, way better musician than I am. But I'm more of the performer, so that's cool.
Okay. What was his
And
instrument? Your dad?
My main his main instrument was drums, but he also did saxophone, and that's like where he was able to do all the composing and lead the orchestras and stuff like that. Yeah, my mother
Wow.
was a jazz singer. My grandfather played upright bass, violin, and mandolin, and then my son. Well, my wife is also a singer and musician, and she's a vocal teacher now that we're kind of like out of the live music business. And my son is my drummer and my music partner for all the endeavors that we do, and he's quite amazing. His main instrument is called a cajon, which you're familiar with those, right? There, it's
Sure, you
like a
love those. Yeah.
box.
Hmm.
But when Will plays them, it's kind of like Animal and Keith Moon had a baby, Animal from the Muppets,
Right.
and that's how he plays cajon. In fact, he puts his hands through them for real. He's
Wow.
amazing. It's unbelievable. So yeah. So we still I still play a little bit live. You see, I got the compression gloves on, but after 52 years of playing, and a good deal of it before I got to kids music was 6 nights a week on tour. So you play 4 to 5 hours a night, 6 nights a week in like in Florida. Then you have to drive to Kansas on Sunday, and then Kansas, you have to play 6 nights. Then Sunday, you drive to Missouri, and that kind of took its toll. So years and years and years of abuse of my hands is leading me to the point where I'm looking forward to doing other things now, musical. And my hands have always been problems. So I've had, let's see, 3 surgeries here, 3 surgeries here, surgery here, surgery here, just from playing guitar improperly,
Really?
which is one, yeah, which is one of the reasons why I really want to teach, and I want to teach guitar, and I want to teach kids how to play with proper technique so they don't need to have hand surgeries. So that's kind of something I'm
Oh
doing
man.
now.
I, there's so many questions, but
Yeah,
I'm curious.
maybe we'll have part two and part three with Billy. So
Yeah, that definitely I could see that happening. So if you did write a book, would it be an autobiography? Would it be just like a specific topic you focus on? You know?
I've started 3 books, and I've not been able to get very far. I finally recently came to the conclusion that I'm going to do uh the best way to describe. Are you familiar with oh god, no, I can't remember, Seth Godin? You know who Seth Godin is?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, so like some of his later books, they almost became like separate blog posts that you can read in like a minute. So it's like
Yeah.
100 chapters of like 2-page chapters.
Right.
So
Right.
the idea I think it's going to be is something kind of like I wouldn't do what I call a bathroom book. So it's like if I have this idea for like the cover where it's got like a toilet with a guitar sitting in it and the book sitting on the
Yeah.
side, but it's
That's
like
pretty cool.
yeah, the idea is like within a minute or two you can open the book anywhere you want and read something interesting, and
Hmm.
on the subject as varied as you know uh packing extra guitar strings to not letting your bass player steal the club owner's pants. And how to start a band, how not to blow up a band, and everything else in between. So that's what I'm thinking. It's going to be like random observations from 50 plus years of the music business. I think something like that. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have potentially many books in you, but that would be a good one to kind of get the ball rolling. You know, no
And it would
pressure
be
to put
useful.
out many books, but yeah, and it'll be fun too.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And I actually I'm just like impressed with you and the things you've done. I'm like, and I've always, and Bob, Bob is my idol. And I always wanted to be like Bob. But like it's really funny how things turn out, because I don't even think Bob knew where his career was going to take off, because now he's like the affirmations guy. He's not
Right,
even really
sure.
the music
Hmm.
guy anymore. And now
Hmm.
I'm becoming like, your music mentor guy, which I didn't think that's something I would necessarily do. I just plan on being a rock star till I drop on stage one day. But now my path is taking me down the path of, well, here's my philosophy these days is, since we haven't perfected direct to brain downloads, like I can't plug this into the universal hard drive in the cloud and everybody can access everything Billy ever did. So I have to figure out a way to get all this information out to people, whether it's
Hmm.
through literature, or it's through podcast, or it's through one-on-one mentoring or teaching. But no matter what, I want to leave as much of this here for people as possible. It's kind of a shame to do all this stuff and nobody gets the benefit from it if I'm not here, you know?
Yeah, oh, I hear you, man. That's a big part of the whole my mission of writing my autobiography, which I'm very deep in now.
Wow.
And my dad passed away when he was 36. I was 6. So that kind of left that, and I had so many questions. He left a big library of books that he purchased and comic books, great comic book collection, great book collection. So I had a lot, I had something to, it wasn't just like he was just disappeared. But I didn't really have much of his writing. Any stories I got were mainly from my mom or my uncle, but they didn't really tell me that. They didn't ever tell me the bad stuff, really, so I don't really know who he was. I just a little bit kind of glossed over version. I really had to prod. Anyway, so I felt like I'm of course I grew up wanting to be a rock star, so I thought it would be my fans who would want to read my autobiography one day. But now I just think it's humans who are curious about other humans who would want to read my autobiography. Because it's about a life in context. I was born 1980, so 1980 to 2020, I focused those 40 years and how I grew up, and I'm trying to make each chapter roughly balanced, which sounds ridiculous. And each chapter is a year. So
Mm.
I just did
Wow.
1982. I was 1 years old and I filled up like 8 pages, so like almost 4,000 words. And it was really challenging to do that. But I did a lot of deep digging. I mean, it's like, my psych was, it's like psychology therapy for me, really, as well.
Hmm.
But because I didn't want to make it like this is my success story or this is where I failed, this is where I succeed. I'm just like, no, this is my human story. This
Hmm.
is what I went through when I was 2 and 3 and 4, and then the first time I played Super Mario Brothers. This is what that felt like, and this is the first time, I saw whatever, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie or something. Those count just as much as the first time I played in front of a big audience to me,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know and I just put it all there because I've focused on my websites for years. It's always like these are the bands I'm in. This is my experience. But I always felt a little shallow, like it was a little like lopsided because there's this whole other part of me that you never share because no one ever promotes to us that we should share our whole childhood or our life story. It's like you always got to focus on like these like highlights, like the curriculum vitae or what's the resume, right? It's the
Right.
resume
Absolutely. Yeah.
approach, you know.
Yeah.
So,
But go ahead.
so I have a random. Unless you have something to say about that, I have a random question like, what's your favorite color today? I think that's a fun question to see where we go.
So you are we talking today or has it changed recently?
Like, I mean, if you have a one color for life, then go ahead. But I like
It's a
to say today because my colors do change sometimes.
Okay, so it's really interesting for forever. I mean, like forever, my color was black, and even to the point where I would only buy black guitars, and I wear primarily black on stage. And recently, that's kind of changed, except for when I was doing the Mr. Billy Kids thing. That was very colorful for a long time, as we do kid stuff. But I'm going to be changing that, and that's something we can talk about later. So I still do a few kid shows. Like I'm still doing very sporadic shows. Like I maybe have like a half dozen shows this year compared to 300. You know what I mean? That's retirement. You
Wow.
know. So for me, or maybe a dozen shows. I don't know. Whatever my hands will do. That's we're really at the mercy of my physical limitations right now. But for years it was always black, black, black. Now it is red, and which is great because my studio just organically became a black and red place. So everything down here, all the walls are black, all the trim and the doors and everything is red. So I
Mhm.
like you know for some reason I've gotten out of the black and I'm into the red now. I don't know what that means. I think there's something with spreadsheets about that. Is red good or
Yeah,
red bad?
something about that. But you're not totally out of the black because there's still some black. Half of the screen is black on you, but
Yeah,
the red's emerging. I'm saying,
yeah,
I'm just
yeah. In
playing that.
fact, my guitars have now these guitars back here. You could only see these ones because they're hanging. My guitars of choice are all. I don't know how many people know about these, but I play Steinbergers. So like this is a bass, and you can see at the top where there should be a headstock on it. There's no headstock,
Hmm.
so there's just nothing at the top. So most of the guitars I play regularly are like that. They don't have heads on them, and all of them were black until recently when I just bought a red one. And
Hmm.
gosh, I love that guitar. So I play the red one all the time now.
All right.
So
So when you play guitar, you prefer to play electric usually?
well, that's a funny thing. Yes, that was always my thing. I'm a lead guitar player, bass player. Those are my two main instruments. And I really like to do a lot of improvising and jamming and stuff like that. But a lot of my career for the last 20 years has been all acoustic work, mostly all acoustic work, because okay, so I was doing rock bands, and I had this really big rock band touring the Midwest called Billy Zack Attack, and we had a couple of albums out, and we were like your, I'm not going to say raunchy exactly, but we were kind of a fun collegey kind of rock band, if you catch my drift. And
Any original
so
stuff or
oh
originals
yeah,
too?
yeah. Actually, we started out as a cover band, and I kind of like that's one of the things like I do in my mentoring programs is I tell people how to go from like if you want to have a career playing original music and make money at it, well, there's a path you can take that you could start as a cover band, and if you follow the path, you can eventually get to original status, which is
Hmm.
I've done that twice on my own, maybe three times. Yeah, three times on my own, and I've helped other people do it. But yeah, we started out as a cover band doing like Kiss and ACDC and stuff like that. And then by the end, we were playing primarily original music. And so I have two CDs out with that band. But then when that all fell apart, I emerged as a children's singer, which is really funny considering my last band's biggest hit was called Dropkick the Bitch. So now I'm playing kids music, you know. But what happened with the children's music thing is really trippy. It was like I moved from at the time I was living in Wyoming with my wife and son, and she was going to have a baby, and I got a call from a band that asked me if I'd come and relocate to Wisconsin. And so I did, and but that band fell apart in a year. But shortly after that, my son took me to show and tell. He was in kindergarten, and I went there with the guitar to show the kids the guitar and stuff. And then his his teacher, Miss Blecko, God bless her, she's like, "Oh, Will's dad's here, and he's going to put on a show for us." And I'm like, "I don't know, what do you do for 5-year-olds? You know, like I'm a rock musician." So I just kind of did the same stuff I did at the rock shows without any dirty words. And I played like, you know, rock and roll all night, party every day, you know, stuff like that. And and it went really well. And she said to me, "You're really good at this. You should do it for a living." And I'm like, "Really?" And I'm like, "It's that's interesting." So then I started doing research on people that were doing kids music, in particular in our area, and everybody was kind of like a Rafi kind of acoustic. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt and I got, you know, sandals on and I'm doing wheels on the bus kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, the kids really responded really well to classic rock. So I decided to go all electric kids music and call myself original classic rock for kids.
Hmm.
And so basically what I would do is I started writing songs that were very reminiscent, if not plagiaristic, of songs that the parents liked, but then I turned them into kids songs, not parodies, but like little riffs from little songs that would be reminiscent of like Satisfaction or Smoke on the Water or you know Cat Scratch Fever, but instead of singing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, we were singing about dinosaurs, you know, that kind of
Hmm.
thing, and that
Nice.
worked out really well. And that was an electric thing I did solo for a while, and then when my kids got older, they started playing with me. They play electric drums. I play the electric guitar. We use some tracks. Sometimes I bring a bass player. Later on, my son and my daughter would take turns playing bass and drums, and that was fun. And then the whole bottom kind of dropped out of the kids' music thing with the library funding and the school funding and the residency funding and like 29 albums into it. I did 29 kids albums. 29 albums in, it just literally the bottom dropped out. And then like here's me and Will, who's now my drummer full time with the kids show. So we just morphed into a classic rock, what we call acoustic power duo. And we've been doing mostly that. So It's mostly me and him. He beats the crap out of a cajon. I play an electric guitar like I'm Jimi Hendrix, like acoustic guitar like I'm Jimi Hendrix, going nuts. And we do really amped up crazy versions, and it's almost like dueling pianos with rock music without pianos. Does that make sense? A lot of comedy, a lot of interaction. As you can
Mhm.
tell, I'm really shy, and once
Right.
I start talking, it's hard to stop me. So so yeah, so it's been mostly acoustic now for the last how old's Will now? He's 29, so it'd be 19 years. So about 15 years we've been doing Big and Tall. And that's the name of the band. It's Big and Tall. I'm big, he's tall, we're big and tall. That's what we do. So there
Yeah.
you go.
And does he? I don't remember. Does he sing too? Is he singing backup?
He sings lead and backup.
Okay, cool.
And he's become one of the greatest lyric writers I've ever heard in my life. And I'm not saying that because he's my son. I am not biased. And that's what he's hoping to get into. He doesn't really write melodies and music. But he is a Bernie Taupin, just waiting for the right guy to hook up with him. He's amazing.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about him. So, and what he's done, which I think is interesting, I don't know if you want to talk about this stuff or not, but he's created this project called Radio Runaway. It's on TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, and he has all these lyrics. And since he doesn't write melodies and stuff, he's really been digging deep into the whole AI thing. So he creates these songs and albums of his lyrics where he uses the AI potential to create fully realized versions of these songs without having to ask me to do them, and which is kind of fun. And so that's really interesting. I don't know how you feel about that stuff, but
Yeah, no,
he's
I
really
saw
good.
you share that at some point about Will doing that, and I checked that. I listened to it, and it's pretty cool. It's great that he has a vehicle that he could explore his lyric writing
And
skills.
creativity and get
Yeah.
himself out there, that's a thing.
Mhm.
So and then the other thing too I do now is I'm the president of the Songwriters of Wisconsin group, and it's really good for him to interact with those people and meet more other songwriters and stuff. So
Sure, yeah.
that's a lot of fun. So I got a lot of stuff going on, man.
I,
For somebody
re-
that's retired.
I know. Yeah, I think retirement is like it's more an idea for you than a reality, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. So I got a couple of fun music questions.
Yeah,
Aerosmith or Led Zeppelin?
Aerosmith all day long.
Okay. Uh,
I'm not a big Zeppelin fan. We could discuss that, but that's another story for that's up to you if you want to go there.
yeah, no, that's good. I actually prefer Aerosmith. Only recently I've started to kind of get Zeppelin, but for my most of my life I haven't been a Zeppelin fan.
Hmm.
I've been trying because like my uncle's a big Zeppelin fan, and for some friends I'm like don't really get it, but I
See,
kind of get it now, you know.
yeah, my least favorite part of Zeppelin is Jimmy Page. I think he's a great songwriter and producer. I really do not like his guitar playing at all. I don't like his tone. I don't like his style. I don't like how sloppy he is. But as far as iconic people that are in that band, John Bonham like rewrote the book. John Paul Jones is a monster. Robert Plant in his prime was a monster. But it wouldn't have happened without Jimmy Page. So I appreciate his contribution to
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And there's a few bands like that, that I don't really love them as bands, but the songs I love about them are probably in like my top 50 songs, like Kashmir. You could play that on a loop 24 hours a day, and I would not complain. It's one of the best songs ever recorded.
You like that? Wow.
Love that song.
Okay, Hendrix or the Doors?
I'll go with Hendrix. Not a huge Doors fan. Again, you picked another one of my bands that I'm not real big on, but the songs that they do, like Riders in the Storm, listen to it on a 24/7 loop. Hendrix, I have to I have because Hendrix is my first real like guitar player that excited me about the possibilities of playing lead guitar. The Beatles were my inspiration to play music aside from my family, but they weren't really like lead guitar players. Like the Hendrix thing is like I'm a gunslinger, I'm a guitar slinger.
Yeah.
And Hendrix led me into other people, like eventually Richie Blackmore, who I worshipped, and then into, of course, Eddie Van Halen and whatnot. So it's about the lead guitar players, I guess, for me.
Okay. All right. Judas Priest or Black Sabbath?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Black Sabbath. Ozzy's an amazing songwriter. Tommy Iommi is an amazing guitar player. They have great songs, and they're awesome.
Okay.
uh, and I love Ozzy solo, and Zack Wild is a beast. Oh my god, I love that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't help it. Like I do find Ozzy middle of the road in a lot of ways, but I'm a fan. Been a fan since I was really young and just can't shake him, you know. Uh Iron Maiden or Judas
Huh?
Priest?
Oh, I have never been a Maiden fan. I know lots of people are diehards. If it was between the two, I'd go with Priest, only because I think I know more of their songs, and I've played a lot of them. I don't know if I've ever even, I've played tens of thousands of songs in my life, and I don't think I've ever played a Iron Maiden song.
Yeah, it's not one you could easily hop on unless you're really
Yeah,
determined, you know. And if you're not a
yeah,
fan, you're probably not gonna.
yeah. I mean, what I've heard, I like, but it's not like something I would like have one in my collection necessarily. You know,
Mhm. Iron Maiden is probably my number one favorite band, by the way.
really.
Yeah.
Well, it's been nice talking to you. I have a drummer friend that's really into those guys. It's amazing. They're and it's really funny. Like when you go back and look at some of the really old original band pictures of like Maiden and Priest and stuff, and how much they changed even before they like made it. It's just
True. Yeah.
mind blowing. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, then maybe you can turn me on to like essential tracks I should listen to.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Bruce Dickinson, the singer,
Yeah.
so most
Well, I
associated.
always hear the bass player is the guy. Like everybody always says the bass player is like,
He's the boss. Yeah, he's the boss and the main songwriter.
oh, okay.
But Bruce Dickinson, like Bruce Dickinson left Iron Maiden for a period in the '90s, and I still listen to Maiden, but something was definitely gone. And Bruce Dickinson's solo records when he left Iron Maiden were better than the Iron Maiden records without Bruce.
Oh,
So
that is very interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
So I know these two bands you really love. I'm curious which one you love more, Kiss or the Beatles?
How do you even choose? Oh, Beatles definitely, because that's like your first love. So how do you not choose your first love over anything?
I see. Yeah.
You know, but in my opinion, Kiss and the Beatles are probably the two most influential bands of the rock era, that you could still feel the ripples today from all the stuff that they did in the 60s and 70s, respectively.
hmm Yeah. I read Gene Simmons' autobio not too long ago, and he said that he really kind of modeled Kiss after the Beatles. That was one of the main things. Obviously, they don't sound the same, but just the sort of like four personalities, all songwriters, singing can like is not just one guy's job, that whole thing. Focus
Yeah,
on.
and I mean, look at with the original lineup of Kiss. Look at the similarities. Four dudes, two main songwriters that wrote together, two peripheral songwriters. The drummer having, like the peripheral writers having bigger hits than the main writers, like George Harrison with Something or Peter Criss with Beth. It's very interesting,
Yeah.
Uh, and so yeah, but yeah, it's definitely Beatles 100%, 1,000,000%. In fact, funny story. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can move this here. There's this red guitar back here. See that? The acoustic red.
Yep. Beautiful.
Okay, that's called the Beatles guitar, and what that is, my daughter was a, and I use the word was because she passed away. We could talk about that later. But my daughter was the world's biggest Beatles fan, and she would go to all these Beatle conventions and hang out with Beatle people. And I would go with her sometimes. My wife would go with her sometimes. But I always sent this guitar with her, and she would go up and she would go around, and she would have all these people at the Beatles convention sign them. So in that guitar, I've got like George Harrison's sister's autograph. I've got Klaus Foreman is on there. The guy that drew the Beatles cartoons, he's on there. Uh, Ringo's saxophone player, Ringo's guitar player. I mean, it's Paul's guitar player. So, I mean, there's like probably 20 autographs in there, and they're all from like people within the Beatles sphere. And my favorite one, though, my favorite one. Do you remember? Do you know who Bob Eubanks is? You might be too young. Okay.
I know the name. I
Okay.
probably was he like a game show host or something?
Yes, yes. There's this old show called, like, I think it was like the Newlywed Game, right?
Okay.
Like, right. Okay. Right. Bob Eubanks is signed the Beatle guitar because back when he was younger, he put a second mortgage on his house to bring the Beatles to the Hollywood Bowl.
Wow.
And he was the promoter for that concert, and he begged them to add a second show, and they wouldn't.
Hmm.
Isn't that wild? But that Bob Eubanks and the Beatles, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, pretty funky to get all those connections, right?
And
The
do some
web.
more of these. I'm having fun. This is great.
Yeah, so okay. Uh the Kinks
Ooh,
or the Clash. I know that's two different, but
no, that's good. Go with the Kinks, not because I'm old, but the Kinks just have like the Kinks got lost in the whole English invasion thing. They were way better than people thought. The Davies were great songwriters, great frontmen. They have incredible songs, and it's depending upon who you believe in. They invented the distorted guitar. You know that story, right? With the really got me
kind of. It was like tearing the amp or something like that.
the speaker. So they actually would slice the speakers so that when you would play through it, it would
Like a
distort.
ripple.
That's the original distortion, is slicing your speakers. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, yeah, I do like the Clash quite a bit though. London Calling is my favorite, with Rock the Casbah as a close second.
Yeah, London Calling's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know who to compare him to because to me there's really no comparison. But where do you in your you know in your rating system? Let's say out of 10 stars, where would you put ACDC?
Iconic. I don't know if I could give you a star rating because I'd have to rate them on a
Like
couple of
in your
different
heart, like are they like a six band? Are they an eight band?
musically, or what they've done. You know what
Like
I'm saying?
yeah, right, so more like Billy Grisack's going to listen to music. What brings him? What level of joy do you get by turning on AC/DC?
mm. It depends on my mood and it depends on the song. Honestly, I'm more of a song by song guy than I am an artist by artist guy. So
Mm-hmm.
like I've never been big on listening to entire albums for the most part.
Oh, really?
So
Mm-hmm.
mostly like I've been doing playlists or greatest hits type albums most of my life. So I don't typically put on a AC/DC album. And because another thing is that would be like listening to like the same song over and over again. So AC/DC is kind of like a really super good bar band that managed to find a formula that worked. When they're great, when they're doing songs like Back in Black or oh god, what's that one that I love? But there's different ones are wonderful. I don't really have strong feelings on ACDC either way, but I know they're as iconic as Metallica is. Otherwise, Beavis and Butthead wouldn't have had them on their t-shirts.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the most fair comparison, AC/DC to Metallica. That's kind of the level of
Yeah.
like grandiosity. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Guns N' Roses,
Iconic though.
super, yeah. Guns
You
N'
can't
Roses
have
or Metallica.
Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses or Metallica.
Guns N' Roses all day.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah, you're not so much a heavy guy, right? Like heavy
I'm pretty
music.
big. No, it's yeah, I like heavy music, but the heavy music I like is different than some other people. So but yeah, that's a good point. I'm more of what I consider, I say I'm a classic rock musician. I'm not a heavy metal musician. That's not what I am, and that's not what I usually listen to. But when I do listen to heavier music, it's more of newer, well, not newer, new, but like probably like late 90s or early 2000s stuff like Rammstein and Disturbed and bands like that. That's
Really?
more of the heavy that I like. Is that
Okay.
I love those drop D's, Corn, all
Really?
that. I love it when the bands play the 7-string guitars and stuff.
Hmm. Interesting. I
Probably didn't
wouldn't,
know
I
that,
wouldn't
did
guess
you?
that. No, I wouldn't have guessed that. No. But again,
Papa
since
Roach.
Yeah, okay. All right. Since you're more of a song guy, maybe there are some of those songs you really liked from that era or something.
You mean like the metally bands?
Yeah, like that's kind of new metal, I guess you might want to call it genre wise.
You be okay? So are we still talking about Metallica now, or did we move up to like Disturbed and stuff?
So the question was Guns N' Roses, Metallica. You say
Okay,
Guns. Okay.
yeah,
So now
love
let's say
love Guns. Yeah,
okay, Guns N' Roses. So before we get to new metal, Guns N' Roses or Def Leppard.
Def Leppard, 100%. Because pop rock is really my favorite.
Uh,
That is my favorite, and 80s pop rock is my hands down favorite kind of music. That's the sound I love. I love 80s music. I love the big gated drums, the over processed guitars, the heavily compressed basses, the singer, and everybody dressed up. Everybody dressed up. It was a show, and then when Nirvana came in, who I love,
mhm.
huge Nirvana fan, it totally wiped that out. And suddenly, we had to show up with our flannel shirts in June.
No, it's a weird phenomenon, right? And I think about that a lot because I'm a big 80s metal, 80s hair metal band. Of course the heavy stuff too, but hair
Yeah,
metal,
yeah.
glam, I love it all.
Hmm.
And of course, the end of the story really is Nevermind comes out by Nirvana, and then goodbye. But
Yep.
I really think it has to do with the world was really focused on MTV at the time, so they
Hmm.
called the shots, and someone at MTV said, "All right, no, we're gonna this hair metal thing. It's kind of run its course. Maybe a new guy got into a position. He said, we're not going to run those videos. Focus on this thing. It's a new thing. It's happening. We're going to tell the world that this is it." And then the magazines followed suit, and then it just dried up like that. But if we lived in a world that wasn't so centralized on one channel, I don't
Hmm.
think heavy metal would or glam metal would have died such a death as
Well,
it
it
did.
didn't here.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
like
right, true. I mean, a lot
all
of
the
people did faded and then it came back.
all the glam bands and 80s metal bands play here regularly. In fact, the biggest band in our area right now, well, two of them. There's two bands. There's one in Wisconsin, there's one in Minnesota. The one in Wisconsin is called the Glam Band.
Mhm.
And they're literally, I mean, they have the hair and the Zubas and the pink guitars and the whole show. And they just basically do covers of all the hair band stuff at Bon Jovi and all that stuff. And then the band from Minnesota is called Hairball. And Hairball's become kind of a national act now. They're playing like arenas and stuff. And they do 70s to early 90s rock. So in costumes and stuff. So like they have a guy does Gene Simmons and breathes fire and everything, and they have like Axl
Yikes.
Rose and all that stuff. And so again, out here, it never really died. So like as soon as it really crumpled and fell apart on the coasts, it's like suddenly like Loverboy and all those bands, they just flocked right here to this area, and bands like that are playing out here all the time. They never stopped.
Wow.
It's kind of why I'm here.
Oh yeah. All right, because you love that sound. Interesting. Wow. Um, okay, so let's bring it up into the 90s. Nirvana or Soundgarden.
Nirvana.
Okay.
Although
Uh,
Black Hole Sun is in my top 50 though.
yeah, well, all right.
That's
That's
on
quite a
24
song.
7. Love it.
Yeah. Okay. Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains.
Pearl Jam all day and all night, and partially because my wife loves them. We were out the Versus album many times. That's a great album,
All right.
and they jam a little bit. There's some great guitar stuff in there.
Yeah, Pearl Jam. Yeah, they're like kind of their own genre, really. I wouldn't even put them in grunge. They get lumped in there, but they're like a really good rock band. They're classic rock. They're grunge. They're hard rock. They're
They're a
pretty.
jam band. They're almost like the classic rock version of Fish. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's like
Yeah, I
because
kind of see
especially
that.
later Pearl Jam has gotten to be more jammy as
Hmm.
they've gone on in time, and as a guitar player, gotta love that.
Right. Yeah. All right. What about this? S- um. Okay. Stone Temple Pilots or Green Day?
Well, I'm going to go Green Day 1,000,000% because Green Day is like one of my. They're probably down like after my top five bands. They're probably in the bottom of the top 10 is Green Day, and that's a family favorite band too. And I love all their music, and I think Billy Joe is amazing songwriter, amazing singer. People don't realize it. And Trey Cool is one of the best drummers. I mean, the whole band is great. Just they have no weird parts. But STP, man, the songs they do, they're amazing. But they're not up to like Green Day's. Like, it's almost like comparing like Stone Temple would be like an opening act to Green Day. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I probably prefer Green Day. I like Stone Temple Pilots. I don't love either of them. They're more like
Really?
bands. No, I'm more of a heavy metal guy, really. But
Right,
and a
right, yeah.
singer songwriter. Like I love Billy Joel. He's one of my favorites.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um, okay, let's see. Disturbed or System of a Down?
Oh, totally Disturbed, like all day and all night. Uh, my actual favorite is "Get Down with the Sickness" of
Okay.
theirs. In fact, that's on my workout. That's one of my workout songs. Love that song. Yeah. System of a Down. That's Chop Suey, right? Is that the band that's Chop Suey?
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
Sugar.
not don't really like those guys very much, so that's
Mhm.
not one of my favorites.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't love them, but I do like I don't know, they did something different, and the guitar playing is pretty interesting and whatever. Yeah. Uh, okay, so you said what was that other one? Papa Roach? Okay, or Corn. Papa Roach or Corn.
I love Corn. Yeah,
Corn.
I'm not just saying that because one of my best friends loves Corn. He's probably going to watch this, but no, I really like Corn. Again, like I said earlier, I love the when they start using the 7-string guitars and like everything gets lower, and that's really 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 cool. You know.
Interesting. And the lyrics don't bother you? You don't find that it's too dark? A band like
No,
Corn?
and, it's funny you should mention that. I found that really interesting in your book when you were talking about listening for different types of I forget how you put it, but like like positive music and music that's in the middle of that music that isn't positive. I think. How did you phrase
Yeah,
those
I
three?
basically put on a scale from dark music and to light music, and then like
Right,
gray area music.
right. So here's the deal with that. And I'm glad you brought that up. Up until recently, I have never really listened to lyrics. That's like not something I've ever really done.
But you
So
sing it. Sorry to interrupt you, but you sing and you memorize lyrics, right, as a performer.
I don't know. See, that's the thing. Yeah, I sing thousands of songs, but I cannot remember the words to anything, including my own songs. I don't know what it is. I mean, I just can't remember words. Now, ask me what song I played, 1977, in the third set and play the chords and do all the guitar parts. I can do that. I have like eidetic memory for like chords and melodies and arrangements, but man, lyrics, no. So when I'm on stage, I always have a sort of a teleprompter going on because I can't remember words to anything. And it's only been in the last few years I actually even started paying attention to what a lot of the words I'm singing are, because I think I've become a better singer once I realized that the words have meaning, and I should probably be putting emotion into the words and not just singing the words because you need to have words. So that's another journey I've been on. So yeah, words, like I knew choruses to songs, of course, but like verses and bridges and stuff, not so much. So I've always been more interested in the sound. So for me, what does the overall sound like? Does it sound really great? And is there something in the sound that gets me? And it usually starts with the rhythm, the drum sounds, and then I start latching into like the melodies and the guitar stuff, and I love keyboards. And but the actual lyrics have always been the last thing, which is probably one of the reasons why my lyric writing isn't very good, because it's more like I took the approach for years like, well, we need words here, so put words in. And I was more about having catchy choruses and don't worry about the verse. It's kind of like the way Kiss does it. It's like they have anthems. They write, I want to rock and roll night and party every day. Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. All this, those choruses, but I have a clue what the verses are. So for me, I find it interesting when you talk about music having different it can affect you in different ways, like whether it's positive or negative. Now that also deals with when, and maybe you had this problem too when you were doing kids music and you were attempting to do more of a metal music, like just me doing rock and classic rock and some of the rap stuff I was trying to do at the time, a lot of people gave me a hard time about that because it was like, well, that music isn't positive, it's not uplifting. And what I say to most people, although your book opened up some really good trains of thought for me, is that the music is just the music. We could be singing about murder or we could be singing about dinosaurs. To me, that's kind of how it is. You know what I mean? So you can take a song that's got a really negative message and rip all of it out there. Now we're singing about the ABCs, but you have the same music. I don't really see a problem there,
Right.
you know? And this also goes with when I first started doing children's music, people did not know how to take me at all because, I'm showing up with this electric guitar and a distortion pedal in the middle of a folk fest, and and it was like I never understood why children's music has to be, and you obviously you do too because you're gonna try to do metal kids music. I don't think kids music has to be necessarily gentle. I don't think it has to be calming. I don't think it has to be folky, because there are children that are raised in areas where we don't have folk music, where they're like screaming and hitting drums and blowing horns, and that's considered lullabies. You know what I mean? It's a cultural thing. So I brought what I thought was me being authentically me to kids music, and I felt like the lyrics were the thing. So when I made kids music, my goal was make music parents didn't hate, that kids would like, with positive messages, because if the parents hated it, they're not going to play it in the car for the kids all the time. So I was trying to make like 80s rock, 70s, 80s rock music
Hmm.
with about dinosaurs and about brushing your teeth and stuff like that. And the parents actually got it, and it worked for me. So that's probably why I had a pretty good successful run as a children's singer songwriter. So I took you all over the place with that one. But
But no, it's a good point because well, the what the connection I can make is regarding dark music, light music, and gray area.
mhm,
Uh, I saw in your music mainly I would say it's in what I call light gray, which I think
mhm,
almost all music is somewhere in the gray. Very
mhm,
few, very it's hard to find music that's purely light or purely
mhm,
dark.
mhm.
But my warning in the book is just pay attention because maybe we listen to stuff that's darker than we think, and it affects our energy and But
Well,
because you did this children's music, you were aware of it, whether it was because you want to be aware of it or you were just kind of forced into that position.
mhm.
You modified and you made lyrics that were very certainly
Uh,
neutral. It's
yeah,
neutral if not positive.
yeah.
So
It's most of my music as kids music is either positive, educational, funny, uplifting, uh, never religious, never political.
and
And that's what I do.
slightly edgy, which is
Well,
which
the
is
music's edgy.
yeah,
Do you find the
and maybe
lyrics
the
edgy?
lyrics
Or
even a
just
little
music?
bit. I mean, I've listened to your stuff, and I mean nothing outrageous, but like it's not super boring. Like you're singing that some that stimulates the imagination and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Eh, you know, uh, it worked great for the Midwest.
I was really impressed when you did that insane 12 albums in a year thing.
Yep, 12 CDs in 12 months with 12 songs on each CD.
Yeah, I love
That
that. Really
ah,
attractive. I knew that you must have drove you crazy, and your wife probably, had a few complaints during that time. I don't know, but
nah, it was fine. The craziest thing I did though was I wasn't taken to like when we started like January, February, March, April, no problem, no worries. I forgot that when the summer hits, I do seven. Well, I work all when I was doing kids music, I would play all 7 days and sometimes multiple shows. So I wasn't taking into account like June, July, and August. Like there was no studio time. Like I had like if I had maybe 5 days off in that period of time, that was a lot. So I started resorting to some really bizarre stuff, man. I remember recording a whole album, which I think was it was the year they were doing the underground theme at the library. Can you dig it? When I did Can You Dig It, I remember recording that one, ready for this, on an iPad with this microphone and a interface into my iPad, driving in the back seat across country. So I was recording all those songs in a moving car in the back of the car.
Who was
So
driving?
my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had like, yeah, I did two albums like that actually. And then also in that time period, I started having to, when we were playing like fairs and festivals, and we would do like three, four, five shows a day, we'd have those long breaks. Every break, I would go to my car and I had all my recording equipment set up in the car. And I was like recording those albums on breaks back then. So the albums that came out from June to August were the hardest ones. Um, but the interesting thing happened. It's just the opposite of what you would think. That's when I learned how to sing because I was a horrible singer, horrible. And even if you listen to the first few Mr. Billy albums or my first couple of rock band albums to my later Mr. Billy stuff, I learned how to sing in that year, and I think I became a better writer. And I just learned the flow of the recording studio, you know. And that's also when I found out. Not that I'm going to make this advertisement for Apple, but that's when I figured out that like Apple was the way to go because I could be like, somewhere with my phone, and my Apple phone has GarageBand on it, so I could like jot down some ideas into it, some drum beats, some bass lines, whatever, and I could take them right out of the phone, put them into my iPad, put a microphone, and I could take it from there to my iMac or my MacBook, and then when I'm all done, that could all go right to the studio. So the flow from the phone all the way through to the final mixing and mastering, it was seamless, So as you would go from GarageBand into Logic, and it's a nice flow. So I don't know if that kind of flow is available for like Windows and Android users, but
Right.
for
I don't know.
me, I don't know if I could have done 12 albums in a year if I wasn't using Apple at that time.
Oh yeah, I doubt it, especially since you're moving around and everything.
Yeah.
So so were you doing mostly it was programmed instruments, but the guitar was your guitar playing, I guess, right?
Well, yeah. So in on that album, I was doing live vocals while the car was moving, dude. Anybody
Like,
that's
hey, quiet guys, I'm gonna sing like that.
no, no, I mean like noises like trucks and trains and the noise of the car going and anything that's going on. But I talk and sing really loud, like really loud. So if you think about it, if you're like literally almost screaming into a microphone diaphragm that's far away,
Yeah,
nothing's getting in there. There
right.
ain't no truck or train that's going to be able to get
Mhm.
within that. So I became my own like vocal booth just by being so loud. uh but yeah, what I did was I would program drum beats, and I would either play bass or play guitar with the interface, and then the keyboard parts I would actually play on the iPad because the iPad gives you an option to play instruments right on it. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but if you look at GarageBand on
Yeah, I don't have
iPad,
an iPad. I don't have an iPad. So I
yeah,
was
so
wondering
yeah,
how you did that at that time, like, because I only had I had the iPhone later actually. I didn't have the iPhone at that time, so
yeah.
I couldn't
So
really
the
imagine.
iPad, yeah, you could actually put a keyboard on it, and you don't need to have a separate MIDI keyboard.
Uh,
And that was really cool. And then what other instruments would be on there? I mean, that was pretty much it. And then also, I was at that point, I started building a global community of collaborators, and that was way before most people started doing it now. And I had people like sending me files from the Netherlands and England and Africa, and like I all these people I met, and I'm like, hey, you wanna? I did this song called Five Rock and Roll Guitars, and I had five guitar players from all over the world jamming on it. It was so freaking cool. And this is kids' music. I mean,
hmm
that's what, yeah, I like to consider myself an innovator,
hmm
and hopefully the innovations are still going. That's something I'll continue to always do. I love innovations.
No, that's great, man. There's some, yeah, like I definitely would love to have more parts of this. I'd like to ask you about the whole food, plant-based
Oh,
lifestyle, whatever you want to share about it, just because you and me kind of bonded on that. And I'm
yeah,
just wondering how it goes for you. And I don't care how strict you are or not, it doesn't matter to me because
sure,
it's a journey. But I'm just curious how you feel about it, like some of your favorite foods, maybe, whatever.
sure. So, okay, I'm just going to give you a little background for people that don't know me or things you might not know. So, my health has always been bad. I've always been a big fat or chubby, overweight, morbidly obese, whatever you want to say. So I've always had weight issues, and because of that, doctors for years have been telling me like, oh, you won't live to see 30, you won't live to see 40, you won't live to see 50, whatever. And I just kind of keep going. But then in the mid 2000s, I start having like major heart problems. So I ended up getting quintuple bypass, which I almost regret doing now because shortly before I did that, somebody suggested whole food plant based diet to me, and I know now that if I had adapted that, well, if I had adapted it years before that, but even if a year before the surgery, I probably wouldn't have had to have the surgery. I don't know if a lot of people will agree with me or believe that, or if that not necessarily for everybody, but but anyway, I ended up having the surgery, and then I got really sick after that, and I ballooned up to like over 420 pounds at one point, and and I was really sick, man. I was like, I had full blown diabetes. I was on insulin, a whole bunch of medications. I couldn't barely walk, couldn't breathe. I was a mess. And I found a friend of my wife's had lost a lot of weight, had a heart attack, lost a lot of weight, and had this book called How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn. And it just kind of spoke to me. And basically, what his thing was whole food, plant based, no animal anything, no oil, low salt, no sugar, all that kind of stuff. So I followed that religiously, with no intention of being vegan.
Hmm.
Just I didn't want to have my chest cracked open again, you know? And then I did that, and I lost like 80 pounds, and I started getting healthy, or and then I got in this whole thing about potatoes. You know about the whole Mars potatoes thing,
I
right?
do. I just don't know what the Mars part means. I
Okay.
see that you'll make it post Mars and it's potatoes. I know that association, but I don't know what the Mars part means.
So after about the first 80 pounds, I started plateauing. I was having a hard time losing more weight. And I came across another doctor named Dr. McDougall and this other guy, Andrew Spudfit Taylor. And they did nothing. And Penn Jillette, he lost like 120 pounds too. And they basically went on mono diets where they did nothing but eat potatoes. And we can get into the ethics and or the nutritional value of that at some point if you want. But out of all the mono diets, it's probably the healthiest one you can do because
Yeah.
you get most of the nutrients you need and it fills you up. And
Mhm.
so the rest of the weight I lost mostly just eating potatoes. And then after that and then I kind of leveled off and kind of became like what I would consider like a vegan, and I try to stay away from the junk food if I can. Um, but yeah, so that was my thing, and so now I keep having health problems. Like I've had cancer twice and stuff. And but the thing is, I believe from the bottom of my heart, if I hadn't changed my diet, my lifestyle, that I wouldn't even be here talking to you right now. So like a lot of people say, "Whoa, you're so healthy, but how come you got cancer?" And I'm just like, "Well, I probably had the cancer for 20 years inside me before I started the diet. If you know how cancer works, you know." So
Yeah.
and so I've been through a lot, man. Like I'm you know at this point my lifestyle is to just keep me on earth. You know, it's like I've
Mhm.
done the damage. I accept the damage. I know what I
Mhm.
did to myself. But now I'm just doing the best I can to be here for you and everybody else. You know, it's kind of my
Yeah.
thing.
And then
Ask me
with
more
the happy.
specific. Yeah, ask me more specific questions though, because I know I get derailed a lot.
So specifically the Mars, what does that mean,
Yes.
Mars?
Okay, so Mars. We actually had an acronym for that. I can't remember what it was, but so it's kind of I'm a huge science fiction fan, you know, right? There we go.
Mhm.
So like all over the house, like everything is like Star Trek, you know, Star Trek everything, you know. So and so I'm a big science fiction fan. There's this movie called The Martian. And in the movie called The Martian, this guy gets stuck on Mars, and all of his food gets destroyed, and the only thing he has left is potatoes. It's the only thing that'll grow. So
Ah.
I call going to Mars when I'm on my potato only diet. So
Mhm.
whenever you see me, oh, I'm getting on my spaceship, going to Mars. And my wife came up with this. Mars stands for my awesome reducing spuds.
Okay, there you go.
So, but all my friends know what it means when I'm going to Mars. So it means, oh, Billy's eating potatoes again.
Yeah, that's great. You might
That's
appreciate this story. I I'm diabetic since
okay.
diagnosed 2014. I thought I was type 2. I'm actually type 1. So
Right. Okay.
I was thinking like I could actually
Yeah.
reduce it. I was reading um, Neil Barnard. Uh,
Oh yeah, he's the
you know,
best.
yeah, he's awesome. Then and one other guy, forget his name. And then I got into that. Then I got
Furman.
to Furman. Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
Dr. Furman, and then that was like 2014-ish, and then 2015 I think I discovered Dr. McDougall when he came
Oh,
out with the starch solution, and that talks about you can survive on all potato and it wouldn't be a problem really. And I was like, And actually, I cried the first time I heard Dr. McDougall's like very, because you know how he's very vehement and like he doesn't pull punches. He's kind of like a cowboy and like just really he points finger. I know he passed away now, but when he like said you could eat as much potatoes as you want, like I think I started crying because at that point somehow it was put into me that you can't eat as much potatoes as you want from whatever else I had read. And he was saying that potatoes, because potatoes are comfort food. And
mm-hmm.
when, I was really trying to be strict because of the freaking diabetes and the comfort food element coming back in, I was like, yes, I do want to gorge on potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then actually there was a moment where I was getting really frustrated with my doctor because he was just trying to give me more medication. He was telling me eat all these standard,
Yeah.
old fashioned things that don't help with diabetes. And I'm bringing this new information, but he doesn't want to hear it. But my numbers are getting better because I'm doing this thing that I'm not allowed to really speak to him about, So he
Right.
thinks it's him. But then eventually he's like, he wanted to give me more medication because I was I was getting worse. What the reality was is that I was being treated as a type 2 with pills, but I was a type 1 and he
Right.
diagnosed me incorrectly. So anyway, I got fed up with I didn't know I was a type 1 yet, but I knew something was wrong. And I was trying to like just eat healthy and do the right thing and then thinking my blood sugar was going to get better, which theoretically, if you do the right thing as a type 2, you can actually not take medicine anymore. But for me, my one day, I stopped on my own medication, kept eating like I was. And then one day, a different doctor called me and said, hey, you need to go to the hospital because you came in for this test and your blood sugar is over 500 and you
Yep.
need to go to the emergency room right now. I was like, oh, I guess it's not working. And I was exhausted when he called me.
Mm-hmm.
So something was wrong. Anyway, I go to the emergency room, but somewhere in there, I had this email exchange. I emailed Dr. McDougall. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck to trust right now, but you're the only guy. And he answered me, and he's like,
Oh
yes,
yeah.
right. You're right. You actually sounds like you have type 1, and that you should be on insulin and take this
Mm-hmm.
particular insulin right now. And so I
Mm-hmm.
went to the emergency room, and when I went to I changed my doctor right after that emergency room thing. So that emergency room thing was the first time I ever had insulin, and it
Mm-hmm.
worked. So I switched doctors, and I requested to that doctor. I said, I want insulin, no pills. He's like, you sure? I think we could do this with pills. I'm like, I don't. There's no, just insulin. Anyway, then I went to an endocrinologist. Turns out I'm type 1,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So and from there, but I really had to take it into my own hands, had
Mm-hmm.
that experience, and just really trust myself. And
Mm-hmm.
McDougall did play a role,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate him for that.
Yeah, it's really a bummer. Like one of my friends, do you know who Chef AJ is? She's
Right?
really
Yeah.
good.
I
Yeah,
was
so
thinking
she's
about her when you mentioned your story about cancer.
yeah, she's a good friend of mine, and I'm so sad because she had me hooked up to meet John and McDougal, and he didn't make it. That really sucks. But I've been really lucky to meet like and work with like Dr. Esselstyn and stuff like a lot of the what the hell from Forks Over Knives people that are in all the documentaries, like they either know me or know of me because I run in those circles. You know how that goes,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I always go out of my way to try and know as many people as possible. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Right. You're a very gregarious, outgoing guy, and hard to
Yeah,
forget.
and plus yeah, plus I like connecting people. So it's like everybody I meet, it's not like I make a file of like how can I use these people necessarily, but I keep a file of like I know all these people that do all these things. and some of these people are looking for certain things. Some of these people, I'm always connecting people all the time. It's a
Hmm.
thing that I like doing. I feel like that's one of my main jobs in the world, besides education, is just trying to connect people and that wouldn't necessarily meet each other. That's huge for me. That's a big thing, a big part of my life.
Yeah,
Always has been.
I think our life missions can be really uh, something like much more sort of simple or like essential than we think, like maybe the connecting part for you. That's
Mhm,
also a big part of my mission. And like
mhm,
I was I have conversations with my higher self. Actually, I do some channeling. I have
mhm.
a version of my higher self called Washesh. I don't know if you know Bashar and Dalanka. So it's a similar thing.
This is new to me because I'm a new Buddhist here, so we're
Okay. Right. Yeah. So this
we're
is a little bit.
crossing that bridge now.
Right. Right. True. Okay. So this is
But I don't
actually
know.
not.
But I don't know if I'm a new Buddhist. I mean, what I'm finding out is like I think I've been practicing a lot of this without knowing what it was all my life because my attitudes towards a lot of things have been very different than everybody else's. And now that I'm finding out that it's actually a thing, it's really interesting to me. Other forms of spirituality, religion, whatever you want to talk about, never felt quite right to me. But this just seems like putting on a comfortable pair of shoes so far.
Mhm.
So yay.
Yeah. Yeah. I would
And
say
I have
that
a lot to learn.
that was a similar experience for me when I really immersed myself in the form of Buddhism that I practice. I was like, I kind of felt like I was back at grandma's house, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I had a moment like, okay.
If you don't mind
And
my asking, like, how were you raised? Were you raised any particular
yeah, so
dot?
mom was Lutheran and dad was Catholic, and dad was the stronger vision. So I was baptized a Catholic,
Mhm.
and I went to Catholic school for first 10 years of my schooling.
I went to
Okay,
Catholic school and all that, catechism, all that.
yeah, and it has a place in my heart. I still visit churches and stuff because it's
Mhm,
part of my DNA, really.
mhm,
But and the Jesus connection is there for life, and I think it's very pure. But I
mhm,
actually felt that when I became Buddhist, when I decided I'm going to take a new path, I'm going
mhm,
to die to my former self and choose to be a Buddhist. I felt like that
mhm,
was the best way I could honor my relationship to Jesus. I was like,
mhm,
that's how I'm going to be like Jesus, is to die to this former
mhm,
self and
mhm,
step into something new, unknown that is
mhm,
has like a big heart and no more sacrifice. That this was kind of part of what I was the deal for me was that the sacrifice image of Jesus I didn't like either. It was more like I want to, because I want others to be happy, but I want to be happy too. I want to be included in that everyone happy thing, and not me giving for the sake of others anymore, but me giving and me receiving and others benefiting, and we all happy together. Which is kind of the Buddhist philosophy. And I had to kind of graduate from the way Christianity was taught from the Catholic Church anyway.
mhm, mhm,
And there are different forms of Christianity. Maybe there are some mystical traditions that have almost like a Buddhist view, probably, but they're
mhm.
not easy to come by. I don't think. So yeah. Anyway, so raised Catholic. I had some
Uh,
like searching period, and then eventually Buddhist.
and how long have you been following that path?
Well, I joined the SGI, Soka Gakkai International, which is this lay Buddhist organization, in 2009,
Okay.
May 3rd, which is actually their uh, I think it's founding day. The founding of the Soka Gakkai, this organization, was May 3rd, and that was the day I joined, kind of
Okay.
accidentally. um, so very mystic, and there's a lot of these funny mystic connections with myself to this organization, to this particular form of Buddhism.
Mhm,
Just some fun ones like my birthday is December 22nd,
mm,
and which is 12/22, 1980 at 12/22/80, right? And so I'm always writing 12/22. And the founder of Nichiren Buddhism, whose name is Nichiren Daishonin, he was born in the year 12/22.
mm.
You know, so that I could never ignore that. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
kind of, and then his right hand man, he had a few this right hand man, right hand like younger man, right, different key disciples in the life story of this guy. His name was Shijo Kingo, and he was kind of like he was a samurai, and but he was like a good-hearted samurai who, because that was life back in the we're talking about 13th century Japan, so feudal
Hmm.
Japan.
Hmm.
So that was one of the jobs you're gonna, people are samurai. So Buddhism was there to help people to live just and positive lives despite what their job title might require them to do, that type of thing. Like picture modern day gangster or whatever. And anyway, so this right hand man to Nichiren Daishonin was named Shijo Kingo, and so I was subscribed to the publications, the Buddhist publications, and they take the first three letters of your last name, and then they put the first two letters of your first name. So for you, it would be GRI and then BI, right? So
Yeah.
Griby, and then there was some numbers, right?
Yeah.
Gribi. So for me, it was SHEJO. So it was Shijo.
Hmm.
And it's the right hand man of Nichiren Daishonin, is Shijo Kingo. And my thing comes to me uniquely. No one else gets this name Shijo mailed to them. So just these funny connections, and there are quite a few more. But um, another interesting thing is Nichiren Daishonin, the founder of this Buddhism, was born 1222, and uh, Saint Francis died
Mm.
in the year 1225. And Saint
Okay.
Francis was one of the most inspiring Catholic figures to
Sure.
me, you know, because that nature connection and truly true humility, and and then St. Thomas. I went to the school I went to was St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas was born like 1220. Like, so there's like this overlapping of three very significant figures in my life within this very unique time period around the
Mm.
1200s. That I don't know. It all just came. It's meaningful to me. And chanting for me was Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, right? So we don't sit and meditate. I do that actually, but that's my own choice, my self practice. But as a Buddhist, I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and this. I always prayed as a Catholic, and I always wanted a little more. Felt a little too tame, and the words didn't really make sense. But as a
Hmm.
Buddhist, it's very musical. It's 6 syllables, so it rolls Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and you could do it fast, you could do it slow, and you do it in a group and has this like roaring like
Hmm.
like it's like racing with the speed of the world turning, like you want to
Hmm.
stay ahead of the world, or like on the edge of the speed of the world. And it's always, the idea is always that I'm making causes so
Hmm.
that I'm stepping into the future of a future of with effects of the causes I've created now,
Hmm.
not just like this unfolding of shit that I unwittingly did in the past. That's it's like I'm creating the causes I want. So to my tomorrow is going to have the effects of all these new causes I'm creating every day. So that it worked for me, and I still do chant, every day. Although I'm not a leader, I was a leader for a while, but so I've kind of like toned down the intensity of my practice, but it's still there.
Mm. Haven't gotten to the chanting part yet.
Yeah, I know it's a little challenging if you have no one to chant with. I don't know if, like you said, Appleton, Wisconsin, are there any SGI
No,
booths? I don't know. Uh,
I've searched. We've got some stuff down in Milwaukee, but that's about it. So,
yeah.
but you know what? I will hopefully find a way to manifest. Because I'm a firm believer in that. It's like uh and I think a lot of the things that you've mentioned to me are really similar to that too, as far as like manifesting the positive future that you want to have happen. You know what I mean? And if that's going to be part of it, then that's great.
Yeah, and well, and Buddhism was a part of my path. It's certainly not everyone's path.
Mhm.
I do believe we all are, but it's open. It's available. It's there for anyone.
Yeah.
Equally. But yeah, I kind of really have this feeling like I tune into my higher self, which is again not a specifically Buddhist practice. This is I don't know, an intuitive, whatever you want to call it, practice where I like channel aspects of my higher self. And um, I don't know, I just find that whatever question I have about anything I'm going through, there
Hmm.
is this kind of ability to, it's like talking to God, I guess, if you want, but
Hmm.
it's a few steps down the rung from God because my sense is that God is beyond like really thinking or being needing to answer anyone's questions. So it was like it's like oversouls of mind, like collectives that are have much more sort of evolution. You love sci-fi, so you can imagine much more
Totally.
evolution, much more evolved
Hmm.
aspects of my own being that I
Hmm.
can converse with, and like go into like this sort of semi-meditative state and just channel. I could ask a question and allow Washesh, that's the being, to channel an answer. And I just let the words come out of my mouth and I listen to them. And they're just always helpful without fail. It's amazing. So it's like, yeah, am I making it up? Is it my imagination? Maybe, but it comes out just fluidly, you know, that with answers that make sense.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
interesting, And Bashar, if you never heard of Bashar, he's a channeler, and he does the same thing. It's very amazing.
It's kind of sad in a way because like my dad was really into Eastern philosophy, and when I was really young he was really into this and tried to tell me all this stuff, and he was into things like Bhagavad Gita and Gil Capron and all that, and but he was also like a mean drunk and a drug addict. Go figure. And so he would tell me these really cool, interesting, beautiful things, and then the next day, he'd be an asshole. And so I kind of tuned a lot of that stuff out, but it's in there, which is really interesting. So, I remember a lot of. I don't remember lyrics, but I remember other things, and
Mhm.
I know a lot of the things that he told me about a lot of this, and I find it really interesting now because as I'm researching and meeting people and talking, it's like all coming back to me, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, but it makes me kind of sad though that somebody that apparently was on the threshold was had so many demons of his own that like he could actually transcend the situation. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Feel
And
bad about that.
I see, and of course, when it is your life story, it's that much
Yeah.
more intense. But
Yeah.
from my perspective, I my dad was a bit different, but he had his own demons, and I don't think my mom and him separated when I was one, which is
Mm.
kind of
Wow.
left some weird dents in my soul or something, in my energetic memory, let's say.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but then they got back together, you know. So
Oh, really? Well,
yeah, but
that's
how happy was it? I don't know. But
mm.
my mom is fairly pretty. She's probably watching. Hi, mom. But she she follows you, man. She likes being connected to you, and she's
Aw.
very inspirational. Um, but anyway, so like I don't know exactly what their relationship was. I can only gather what I can gather, and it's in my book. And she's read the chapters that have her in it, so she's okayed them. But what I would say is that I really feel like after all that Buddhism has taught me and channeling and all my journeys is that no matter what I do, nothing I could do will ever make me better than you, than my brother, than the worst murderer, evil person in the world. Not saying you guys are low or something, but then Jesus, then I can't be better, I can't be worse than anybody, no matter what I do.
Right.
My alcoholic grandfather or whatever, he's still equal to me. You
Hmm.
know, there's nothing I could do to be better. So that kind of allows me to be myself,
Yeah.
and it also says to me, maybe that's what if you have many lives, maybe you want to spend a life being a mean alcoholic drunk. It's certainly I have that in my family history. I'm not you know saying which good or bad, but you know if life is like
Yeah.
eternal.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really funny. I mean, what I learned. Well, I mean, obviously the talent and stuff from him, and having the opportunity to make music with him and stuff and all that, and have him being my original teacher mentor. But I also learned like what I don't want to be.
Hmm.
So like my mother was a massive chain smoker. I've never smoked in my life because of that. I just found it very repulsive. And then my dad, I can't to this day, I can't drink beer. I smell beer and I just have
Wow.
nothing but bad memories. It smells like bad. I
It
don't mean
smells
it
like
smells
bad
bad. I mean
memories.
it smells like bad news. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yep.
So but because our family is kind of hardcore, like we're a lot of addictive personalities. Unfortunately, I have this giant food addiction, but I'm just glad that I didn't want to do drugs because I wouldn't be alive. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it is what it is. So I mean, his problems did serve a higher purpose for me, I guess, in a way. And it was his journey. There's nothing I can do about it, but his journey is part of my journey because it made me who I am, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Plus, he's in here somewhere too, so
But and I think there's also this aspect of in Buddhism anyway, and that our through our lives we can actually make not exactly make up for any bad things that our family did. You could look at it that way, but basically make it all meaningful. That
Mhm.
if it wasn't for the way that my ancestors have acted, I wouldn't have felt determined to
Right.
seek enlightenment. You know what I mean, or whatever it is, or like I wouldn't be determined to write my own book because if I wasn't so curious about my own father, I might not have thought I should my life would be worth recording or something like that. Uh,
Oh, so do you mind if I change topic a little bit?
Sure. I think someone wants to say hi to you first, though.
Oh
My
my gosh, somebody's
your,
gonna say hi to
your
me.
squirrel is hiding under here, and I don't know if I can get him out.
The
Oh,
reason
okay.
why I'm not coming up is because I might talk to you.
He's afraid if he gets into the camera, he's going to start taking over and talk nonstop.
But don't worry, tell him that my wife already texted me and said, please let the host talk more.
You got to say hi to Mr.
Come
Billy.
on up. Hello there. Let me see you. Well, hello. Who are you?
Hi.
Very nice to meet you. I'm Billy.
Kai Link. So, Kai, do you play any musical instruments?
Drums, I do play drums mostly, but I don't play it that much anymore. But I do
Oh,
play it, but I do play the guitar more often.
cool. My son plays drums. He's bigger than you are, though. Yeah.
Like a lot bigger.
A lot. Actually, he's taller because I'm big. He's tall.
Yeah. They have a band called Big and Tall. So I told Kai that you and your son are the only other duo that I could think of, and definitely the only I mean the White Stripes, but the only other father and son duo that I could think of because we have a band we're called Carish Rabbit, but you guys have been
Wow.
had a band for a long time now.
That
But
is
we are on
cool.
Spotify.
Yeah, we're on Spotify.
Wow. That is so cool. Well, we actually haven't even recorded a Big and Tall record yet, but I have to do that. So time to record again.
Yeah, and you've played a million shows though, you guys, right?
We have played so many shows from New Jersey to Texas to Alaska. We've played everywhere.
Pretty wild. In
The
Alaska.
trip, yeah, no, the trip to Alaska was really great. Let me tell you about Alaska. We ended up doing a library tour in Alaska, and they paid for everything, and they flew us up there. We got to fly up to Alaska, and we rode up and down the Alaskan highway, and we went to every town in Alaska and played there. It was one of the best trips ever. It was the best
Wow,
father son road trip ever.
I bet.
Yeah,
How long were you there for?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wow. Did Alaska just seem like incredibly vast?
Yes, and sparse.
Mm.
Beautiful scenery. Everybody seems to trust everybody up there, which is really interesting. We had a situation one time where my guitar broke, and there was a gentleman at the library. He says, "Oh, I can fix your guitar. Come out to my shop." We drove like 50 miles. into the middle of nowhere to his shop, which looked like one of these things from a John Carpenter movie because apparently he's a blacksmith and he makes knives. But we went in there and they had the anvil and everything. He starts showing us his knives, and we're like, we're not getting out of here alive. But he's the sweetest guy, and he fixed my guitar, he soldered it up, and then we went to the next show because there's like, not a guitar store, and in the middle of nowhere, to go buy stuff. So yeah, we landed in was it is Anchorage? I can't remember which one's the bottom, but we did Anchorage to Fairbanks or Fairbanks to Anchorage, whatever the order is, and then we started down here. We worked our way all the way up the highway and came back down, and it was amazing.
Was it cold?
No, we went in the summer.
Yeah,
summer reading. Yeah, no colder than Wisconsin.
Okay, yeah. How are you with the cold? I don't like the cold.
Well, being from New Jersey, I'm like at it when it gets into the the 30s, 40s, 30s, I'd start wearing my coats and stuff when I lived there. Now, like, man, it's like 35 degrees and I'm walking out there with a t-shirt on. At like 45, 50 degrees, I got my shorts on, and what's really funny, yeah, the extreme example is my sister, who's also from there. Obviously, she lives in Las Vegas, and like, it's like 60 degrees out there. They got their winter coats on, so it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I think Kai wants to show you something.
Yes, please.
So this is our CD.
Wow.
CD show.
Okay.
Yeah, homemade. This is like a homemade thing.
Now, did you say you put it on Spotify too?
Yep. Yeah, we're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. I use CD Baby, so wherever CD Baby puts you.
Okay, I will. There it is. Okay, we're at it. All right, because I'm going to find you on Spotify. So, and then you can send me a link too.
Yeah, I'm going to show Kai all your stuff tomorrow. The Billy and Zack Attack and the Mr. Billy stuff again. He heard Mr. Billy when he was growing up as a little kid.
Aww.
But now I'm going to show him as a mature musician now. So
as a mature musician. What instrument did you play on it? Did you play the drums on it or something else?
On our album?
I played mostly the drums.
Wow.
The alternative rock.
And he sings too. Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
This album is alternative rock, and we also have another album which is released again onto Spotify.
Which is called Lovequake is our second album.
Lovequake?
Billy released. He only released 29 albums as a kids artist.
Kid singer, yeah.
As Mr. Billy, he did 12 of those albums in 1 year. Each album had 12 songs on it.
I did. Yeah,
that's awesome.
How old are you again? Oh, he's gone.
9 and a half.
Wow. That reminds me, one time I took my daughter, I would do, like, back when I was doing the podcast with Bob Baker, I took my daughter to Chicago one time to do a key, not like a keynote, but just like a speaking to a group of musicians at a studio about marketing and stuff. And I'll never forget, my daughter started talking, and then it got to the point where I just kind of sat down and I just let her do the rest of the presentation because she knew so much about it and was on tour with me and everything. So, like, that was really a riot, like watching all these people that wanted to learn about like music marketing and stuff. And like, she's up there telling them all the stuff, man. And it's just like, and they're like taking notes and stuff. And so that reminds me of you guys.
Right? Yeah.
So that's awesome.
That's cool. That's really beautiful.
May I say another thing?
Sure.
My favorite instrumental and my favorite band from us is actually my favorite instrumental from us is Box Heart, and I think
Box Heart is the song.
It's an instrumental.
Instrumental, sorry.
Okay.
I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Box Heart.
Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And the self-titled track has the lyrics up.
Okay.
Yeah. Our self-titled track, Karish Radit, tells the story of how we got the name of the band.
There you are.
Yeah.
But because you can't hear the words, there's lyrics up, so you can actually read it.
Yeah. Oh, look what you got. This guy is
Thank you.
quick. This guy knows his stuff. He's like a music mentor type of guy. Oh my gosh. Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will be listening to that tonight.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to do a number two sometime, Billy, if you're up for it.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, we kind of went all over the place today, and I think that's great. And
Yeah.
I had a wonderful time. So, and yeah, and we touched on this a little bit at the beginning. So, I probably would love to do that again and talk a little bit about like what I'm planning to do in the future with my new business. That'd be cool. So, I'm hoping to again just try to help people with whatever they need. You know,
I mean, feel free
it's
to,
funny.
I'm not rushing us off. If you want to talk about it a little bit now, you could talk about
Well,
it again next time too. But
yeah, sure. You know, like just briefly, you know, so I'm in the process of like I just finished like a lot of my alpha testing. I'm doing like my beta testing on it, and I'm trying to launch a new business called Your Music Mentor. So it's like, hi, I'm Billy, your music mentor. How you doing? And I'm trying to launch it in a lot of different ways. But the main goal is to like help musicians help themselves. So it's that real like you know, give a man a fish or teach a man to fish kind of thing, you know. And so the goal is whatever you need. I've probably been there and done that, or I know somebody that has, and I could probably offer insights that'll help you to get farther along without having to suffer or spend money that you don't need to spend. And like even like weird little things, like lately I've been helping advising people what gear to buy. Like why is this keyboard better than that keyboard? Why is this one 2000, this one's 500, you know? Or what pedals should I use? What order should I put my pedals in? How do I book a band? How do I start a band? How do I keep my band together? My drummer's missing and I can't find him, you know, all that stuff. So it's almost like life coaching for music people, and if that makes
Mhm.
sense, and everything from songwriting to recording to everything in between. So I'm really digging it. And then with that, I'm going to be launching a new YouTube channel for it,
Okay.
and think a little bit like kind of like a Rick Beato type
Hmm.
YouTube channel, but it could be anything from like let's if you play guitar, you can play ukulele in 5 minutes. It's that easy.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of people don't know the trick. There's a real simple trick to switch from guitar to ukulele, or you know what pedals to use, or what my favorite bands are and why. It could be anything. I like that. Or interviewing people.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So mostly just anything I could do to help people with their music life, because my life has been music. My life will be music, and just because I'm not doing a lot of live shows doesn't mean that I'm not Mr. Music, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a flash of thinking as you're explaining your new vision. Like, what if
I'm going up.
okay. Okay. Good night, Kai. See you in the morning. Um. Yep. Yeah. He likes to make
I don't
sure
have anybody to whisper to.
that. Don't. I'll tell you what he said. He said, "See you around 9 in the morning."
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
There you go.
I could imagine, like, sometimes I see as part of your character, your personality, if you get like this flash and you dive into explaining this particular thing, like, what if you had like a short video series, just kind of riffing out here of like life lessons with Billy, or like it's like lessons on the road with some sort of theme that could encapsulate what you put on the camera for 1 minute to 5 minutes, and you talk about this particular thing, and that's it. So this way you can kind of like build a lot of content of this with this thematic series where you teach
Yes.
different
I,
things.
I
You know?
like the series idea. I haven't thought about that, but if you look at the phone here, see like all these little pictures of me right there.
Right,
This is
something like that, you
right.
riffing on different ideas.
So what I've been doing in preparing for the YouTube channel is I've been doing a series of 60-second shorts that I call live from the PT crew, or your music mentor PT Cruiser edition. So I'm just sitting in my car and I just talk for 60 seconds. But I like your idea of having them themed out sometimes too, because that's almost like the book I want to write. It's like little bite-sized bits of stuff. Sometimes they go together, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's ridiculously random, but could be interesting. You know what I mean? And at all levels. I mean, you'd be surprised. Like for instance, like as a guitar player, you know this, but like the difference between like reverb, delay, and echo. Like people don't understand those are three different things.
Hmm.
And also if you're building a pedal board, where do you put the reverb in the chain? Yeah, it's stupid stuff like that. But it's not stupid. It's just like things that we take for granted because we've been doing them forever.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, oh, you just go do it, you know? And it's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, you know. I'm like, no, I don't. So I'm trying to, you know, like I said, sometimes though, people need to stick beans in their ears and you have to let them, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
sometimes if people are willing to receive the advice you have, that's great. And I'm there for you if you need it.
Right. Yeah. Hmm. Cool. Yeah. That's neat.
So there you go, man. That's me.
Bill, I'm Mr. Billy. Yeah, I'm sorry. When I get casual, Bill, the Y. But
It's my dad.
yeah. So you're William on paper, or you're actually Billy on paper?
William Charles Grisack the third, but I almost try to just put Billy Grisack on most things. You know, but legally, I guess I'm William the third.
I see. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So just like my son is, except he's the fourth. But no,
Hmm.
Billy, everybody knows it's Billy. And not a lot of dudes go by Billy, so that's good.
Yeah. No,
Besides, it goes with the
nothing wrong.
glasses, doesn't it? I mean, come on. Look at this. That's a Billy.
Yeah, it's
What else?
great. I know people like who have like a certain name and then they kind of change as they're adult. Like, don't call me Fran anymore, call me Frank or something like that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
but you just kind of stuck with. I mean, it works. It works
Yeah.
with your personality.
Yeah.
So cool,
So there
man.
you
Yeah,
go.
I appreciate it. I'd love to chat with you again. Love to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I love the questions. Those were so much fun. By the way, oh, we already know what your favorite band is. Iron Maiden. That's your favorite?
Yeah, actually, I want to mention. Yes, I would say Iron Maiden. I
Give me
can't
the
think of
five.
a band I like more. Yeah, I can't think of a band I like more.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't have a top five?
Oh, top five, of course. Yeah, but I would say one of them we're gonna agree on probably, but I'm probably only one. Uh, I can't really put them exact order, but roughly
Yeah.
Iron Maiden, Halloween. They're
Oh,
a
cool.
German power metal band. I'm a
I know
big
who they are, kind of.
fan
Yeah.
of them. Def Leppard.
Mm.
That's the one I think we might agree on.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, as far as other bands, yeah, actually, you know what? No, surprisingly, Red Hot Chili Peppers will probably be
I
up
love
there,
those guys. Yeah.
and others like I might I might put Billy Joel. That's the one that's just coming to my head right now. And
Right. Right.
Metallica is a huge one for me, Megadeth, but
Hmm.
at the moment, that's kind of where I'm
Mm.
at. So I saw you wrote your top five recently. Would they be the
Hmm.
same today as they were last week?
Yeah,
Or
they're pretty much always the same. You know, it's Beatles, Kiss, Kraftwerk, Men at Work, and Yes. Those are the five, and then slightly below that's like Green Day, bands like that, and then it gets really convoluted at that point because everybody's like vying for like being tied. Because I'm more of a song guy, like I said, you know.
mm,
So and then I have like all-time favorite songs. I have current favorite songs, and I love new music. I don't think that all new music is horrible and all old music is great. uh, you know, because there's just as many bad songs written in 1960 as there were in 2025. And if you don't believe me, you can ask because I was there. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like my wife and I were having this discussion today because you'll remember, the top 10, 15, 20, 50 songs from the 60s, but those other 10,000 songs that released, nobody remembers them. They weren't that good, but we
Mm,
just remember those 50. So the 60s must have been great. But
right.
today we heard every single song and they weren't great. But when the 2025s are over, we're going to remember those 10 or 15 or 20 songs if we listen to the radio or. So it's like, you know what else I find funny about that too is in my older age, I started playing a lot of assisted livings and nursing homes. And what's really funny is when you think of old people, which I'm now one of them, is that you think of old people being old people, and if you're going to go to a nursing home, you're going to play old music like Hank Williams and Will the Circle Be Unbroken and stuff. We go to nursing homes now. I'm playing the same set list I did like in 20 years ago in the bars. I'm playing pretty much the same songs in assisted livings now.
Yeah.
I had this one little lady could barely walk. She comes comes up stage. Do you know any ZZ Top? And it's just like, and I got dudes at the assisted livings asking for like Black Sabbath and stuff. So
Yeah, man, that's fun. That's fun to know. I
yeah,
kind of have this theory, I guess. It seems correct that people's favorite music tends to be whatever they listen to from like 12 to 18, right?
you're right.
Maybe 12 to 20 or something like that, or maybe a little earlier. But it tends to
Well,
be in those
yeah,
years. Like maybe your son and my son would be different because they've been immersed in music,
right,
longer.
right.
But I
So
think the
if you do the
typical
math, if somebody is like 70 years old in a nursing home, right? What year would they have been, say, 15 years old? I'm bad at math. Are you good at
person.
math?
Right, so let's say 25 would put them, yeah. So 50, yeah, about 65,
Right.
1965.
Well, they so between like 15 and 20, you better believe they like Jefferson Airplane and Jimi Hendrix and stuff.
And the
And you
door.
could play that in a nursing home. You can't play it as loud as you used to, but
Mhm.
they still like the music. Like one song that goes over really good when we do the nursing homes. My wife does Venus by Shocking Blue, and she
Mhm.
does what's that called? Doom, White Rabbit. She does White Rabbit. I mean, we do it at an assisted living place, and they go crazy. Crazy,
That's
huh?
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I had another question that,
Okay.
mm, uh, hmm, yeah, sorry.
One last question for you. What made you want to play heavy metal, and why guitar?
Okay, so like I mentioned, my father died when I was young. I don't know what would have happened if he was around because he didn't dislike music, but he was not a music guy. He was more like he worked at the Daily News, New York Daily News. He did the night shift. Making money was important to him because he came from a lower income background and whatever. So I had the luxury of not having it bad, so that when the time came for me to fall in love with music, I begged my mom for a guitar, and then I had the basement to play in and stuff. So that's kind of like the setting of how I was allowed to be a metal guy. But MTV came around when I was, I guess I got it. We got in the house when I was like 8 or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
1989. So the perfect, most impressionable time for MTV because then Welcome to the Jungle was on there. Sweet Child of Mine was brand new, being played on there. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
Pour Some Sugar on Me. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
the good Motley Crue stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kickstart My Heart was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor Feelgood. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
most really awesome, cool era hair metal stuff. Like kind
Mm-hmm.
of like really the peak, kind of. I mean, you might say early '80s, but yes, but this was a different peak,
For the
really.
hair bands, it was more there. Yeah, it was poppier earlier and rockier later. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for that like heavier like
Mm-hmm.
metal, heavy
Yeah.
metal, it was there. And then Metallica was part of that. My uncle Rob gave me a Metallica Injustice for All on a like copy cassette tape. So I went like 8 or something. So like I'm getting these sounds in my ears. It was cool on the block. That was a big factor. So I liked uh, Irish music because that's what my mom played and my mom's friends would listen to. Like Tim Finnegan lived in Walking Street and into my Irishman idea, like this kind of like lilting. And I could do Irish music well, actually. And I did like it a lot as a kid. And then my friends were getting into this long hair, heavy metal thing. I'm like, ew, I didn't like it. And I tried to resist it as part of my nature to like be against the stream. And
Right.
I told I told him I don't like heavy metal. I like opera, like just to be different. I never listened to opera, but I was just trying to be different. And then I don't know, like my friends would listen to it, or I suppose the MTV aspect. Welcome to the Jungle. My aunt showed me Welcome to the Jungle on a VHS she made, and then it was mainly when I saw Sweet Child of Mine, and I saw Slash playing that opening thing. I'm like, wow, I want to. If I did that, that would just be so cool. And then Duff comes in with his bass line, then the drums hit. I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, and of course I idolized Axl Rose too. I
Hmm.
didn't know I wanted to be a guitarist exactly. I wanted to be a musician. Then it was like Slash, Motley Crue, Metallica. Somehow I realized I want to play guitar. I always wanted a toy guitar. I got the Hot Licks, which was this toy guitar in the 80s.
Hmm.
And then I was 11. Yeah, I was 11 and I managed to beg, Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusions 1 and 2 just came out. Black Album, Metallica. I was like, Mom, please. And she's like, okay, if you get a good report card, I'll give you half the money or something like that. Like you use your savings and I'll meet you halfway and we'll get that. And because I said I need an amplifier, otherwise I can't play it. And I got this guitar. I was 11, March of '92, and I come home super excited. This kind of like Strat shaped, it's called a rock axe Strat white cream thing. Plug it in, start like going like this. I had no idea what to do. Oh, I got the clean tone sound like this doesn't sound like my favorite band. I was so disappointed. I had no idea what to do. And my mom said she would give me, buy, pay for lessons, but I had to be serious about it. And I just put it in the corner. And I said, literally, it stayed for a couple of months getting dust. I was so sad. But I don't know what the heck. It didn't sound like anything I liked. It's just this clean. So anyway, fast forward a couple months later, my friend comes back. He lived in the block, but he was away in Poughkeepsie, upstate New York, for the summer. He was kind of a bad kid. His name was John, and he came back and he's like, Joe, he was a little older. You got a guitar? I was like, yeah, man. He goes, bring it up. I want to see it. So I brought it upstairs. He was visiting, and he grabs it. I guess somehow it was in a little bit in tune from the guy when the guy gave it to me in the store. It was still a little bit in tune, and he goes, bang, 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 bang. The first notes of one. I was like, whoa,
Hmm.
this guitar could do that. It's like, no way. You know, and they did boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. I was like, whoa, you got to teach me that. So he taught me like two or three things. And then I was just off to the races and I figured out how to get like easy tab version, which later inspired my single string books. But this easy tab Metallica book or something. And then my mom said, okay, looks like you're serious. And then I started lessons. And
Wow.
mainly I was self taught at that point. The lessons helped a little bit, but yeah, the fire was, I found the fire, and a way forward.
Wow. You imagine if you had like all the resources now that everybody has, even is even to the point where you get like almost every amp is an amp modeling amp, and then you would have just dialed up for whom the bell tolls and the tone was there. You
Right.
know what I mean? Could you imagine? And you got like 97 guys showing you how to play for whom the bell tolls on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's just like it's a different world, you know.
It's a different world.
All the resources. Some of my students come to me and they can play Master of Puppets like Kirk was sitting there in the room. But you ask them, all right, now play a G chord, and like, what's that? I have no
Right.
idea what a G chord is. Well, we'll start with the E string. Which one's the E string? But they could play Master of Puppets,
Right.
you know, and that's where teaching still helps. To have somebody to teach you the instruments. As far as learning songs go, man, you can learn any song in minutes if you know where to look now. It's like it's amazing. All the resources. But would that be cool? Like, would your life have changed at all when you first picked it up, but you plugged it in and it went brrrr, and it just
Right.
rocked out? Would you have maybe stuck with it from that point on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I tend to think that all those kind of weird obstacles and the disappointments really
Right.
kind of forced me to build that determination or the boredom of it. That whole thing it was really important. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
because that
Cool,
person.
man. Well, I am so happy that we did this. This is really great, and you know, I'm here if you need me. Anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm sure you'll put my contact information in the show notes, and that'll be fine.
Yep.
That's
Yep. If anyone wants
um,
to, find Mr. Billy, Billy Grisack, sorry.
it doesn't
And
matter. Same.
yeah, I'm gonna put links to his music and what he's up to in the show notes. So take a look and stay in contact with him. You can find him on Facebook. And
That's where most people find me, is Facebook these days. And soon to be your music mentor. Hey. And I'll let you know when that's officially launching. Right now I'm just basically figuring out what I want to do. Like, I really don't, I'm to the point in my life where I don't really want to do things I don't want to do. And I don't think I need to. And so just figure out how to help people doing things I enjoy doing. I think that's what I'm going to be doing for a while.
yeah, hopefully for the rest of your life, just do all the things you love to do, and that's it.
There you go. All right, buddy.
All right,
Anything
dude.
else today?
I don't know. Not that I could think of besides that. It'll be great to do it again sometime.
Sounds great, man.
Yeah. All right, Billy. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, man. Yeah, and I'd like to talk more about, there's so many things we didn't get to talk about. So yeah, Billy Grisack, part 2 coming your way soon.
Yes, coming your way before you know it. All right, Billy. Take care, and I'll see you
Take
on the
care, man.
14th.
All
Take
right,
care.
bye-bye.
Night, everybody.